Hello everyone, this is Jason from Primetime Aquatics, and in this video I'm excited to bring you a fish store I really enjoyed. It was in the Cleveland area called Aquatica Aquarium Gallery. A lot of cool fish. I like the way that their fish tanks were set up. Stay tuned. So this is the Aquatica Aquarium Gallery. It's a really cool place located just outside of Cleveland. I will put their information down in the description below in case you want more information. But really nice place, had a lot of variety. They had both fresh and salt water. Our focus is going to be on the fresh water only. And they had some nice display tanks. I wanted to show you a few of those before we kind of get into what they're selling. This was a nice Frontosa display tank. We've got one in a 150-gallon tank that's pretty cool. This was a really awesome Mbuna setup. I've done videos on how to set up Mbuna tanks. I'll put that in the upper right-hand corner as well as in the description below. But these are really cool fish. You can see popping with a lot of nice color. This was a stingray. This was a rather large tank that they had. A display tank was a stingray. The other fish in this tank was this Arowana. There were also a couple of silver dollars in this tank, but really cool. It was definitely something when you walk in the door, you could see it. Really kind of an impressive display. I think my favorite tank in the entire fish store had to be this. It was a display with these angelfish, and they also had some neon tetras in here as well as some other fish, but it was just so cool. These might be one of the coolest angelfish that I have seen in quite a long time, and the way they were just kind of together, they sparkled like jewels. You could see them halfway across the pet store. They were looking really good. So it's always nice when you can go to a pet store, a fish store, and you can see awesome display tanks that give you some ideas, and they had those here. They also had some nano tanks. I'm not going to show them here, but they had some really cool nano tanks. This was another Mbuna tank that they had directly below or right next to the angelfish tank that I thought was cool. Let's go ahead and start looking at some of the fish that they had, and they had a lot of really nice fish. I'm going to show you some cichlids, but I'm also going to show you some of the coolest live bearers I've ever seen, some tetras. They had a lot of variety. And one of the things I really enjoyed about this particular store is how nicely a lot of the tanks were aquascaped when you're in the main part of the store. It was just really cool to see. Again, it provided people with a lot of ideas as to how they can aquascape their tanks. A lot of cool cichlids, as you can see here. This was a really pretty OB. I tend not to worry too much about the hybrids. I like them in their proper place. I also like to keep strains pure, but every once in a while, if you see a really cool looking hybrid, that's not the end of the world, at least in my opinion. And so here we're seeing a lot of really nice looking fish. Here are some really cool albino African cichlids that I thought were interesting. Here are some more of the peacocks. And again, you can see here, they really do have a lot of really nice looking fish. And I thought it was cool, the area where they had a lot of their cichlids. I mean, they had a lot, as you saw in the very beginning. They were often keeping a male with some females, so you could buy a breeding group. Here's some more OBs, and like I said before, I really don't mind them. A lot of people really love these fish. I like them quite a bit. I know when I breed them and bring them to swaps and auctions, people love them. And if this is what gets people into the hobby, caring for fish, then I'm all for it. Obviously, we have to keep strains pure as well because some of the strains of African cichlids are endangered, and so we want to make sure we're being good stewards in that way as well. This was a nice looking tank. Again, it was filled with a lot of Mbuna cichlids. It was a rather large tank. It wasn't very tall, which was pretty cool, but it had a lot of surface area, which lends well to these fish. But if you get the Mbunas right, they can really be very rewarding. And here we see some more. And then these look to be OB red zebras, and they were in with what appears to be some Daniels, and that can be a decent mix. The giant Daniels are fast, and I've had them together before without any issues. I don't know what this fish is. If you do, leave that down in the comments section below. It looks like we've got a male and possibly a whole bunch of females as well. And with some tinfoil barbs, sometimes that can work. We've done that before. We've had tinfoil barbs in with some of our peacocks, and they left each other alone. They didn't really bother one another. The tinfoil barbs are usually on the move, and I found sometimes the cichlids will not bother some of the non-cichlids if they're not overly aggressive. Had some really cool discus. They actually had a couple tanks. I like discus, haven't kept them myself, just haven't had an opportunity to do so just yet. But if you like discus, then this would probably be a place to check out if you're in the area. And here we've got some more cichlids. Love these guys. I think these might be Borellii. If they're not, you can definitely correct me down in the description below or in the comments section below. Here's a whole bunch of fish, a whole bunch of Mbuna. It looks like some more OB red zebras, a flower horn. So if you like flower horns, you got another hybrid, but it's pretty cool. I don't necessarily like when they get the giant nuchal hump, but they're pretty decent fish. And here's an Oscar, reminded me of the albino Oscar we had at one point, which I like quite a bit. And then here we've got some blue dolphins. I have a couple of these actually mixed in with my Mbuna, and they're getting along just fine. So I wanted to also show you some non-cichlids. So for those of you who like a more community feel, we've got some rainbow fish here, and this store had a lot of variety of fish. Love the Denison barbs or the red line sharks. They get pretty big. I mean, they'll get 6-7 inches, but they're relatively peaceful. And if you get a bunch of them, they can look pretty awesome. These are some pelvic acromis, or crebensis, and these are really awesome fish. Here we've got some little angels. Now check out these tanks. This is what I was talking about before. You see here a lot of these tanks have some type of plant in them. When you see the entire row of fish tanks looking like this, it really does look pretty cool. So they've got them in with their tetras, and they had a lot of cool live bears. I like these quite a bit. Here we have some more angels, but it just made the tank so much more appealing to look at. You know, as I was looking at this, it also made me want to get back into doing some swordtails and some platies. These were the cool scuppies, one of the coolest scuppies I've ever seen in my life. I absolutely love these things. I should have picked some up before I left, but I didn't, and now I'm kicking myself for it. But here's some more really cool swordtails as well. And then we've got some guppies. I believe these are Japan blues. I have some of these at home, and they're pretty awesome. And then we've got some bichures here just kind of hanging out. Very cool fish, need a relatively large tank to deal with them. They're not overly aggressive eaters, so sometimes they're best kept on their own. And then they also had some really nice fully planted display tanks with some various types of guppies and tetras. And before we go, I did want to hit the cichlids one more time because there's a few other ones that were pretty cool. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Again, I will put Aquatica, the aquarium gallery, their information down in the description below. If you like this video, share, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.